Back to Access Tech Live.
Isn't it great to have a tech show on Global Accessibility Awareness Day? That is today. And while Stephen Scott may be off, he never forgets to leave his imprint behind. Joe Devon is one of the co-founders of GAAD, Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and he had a chance to sit down with Joe and talk about its roots and the significance. Let's take a listen.
Joe Devon, it is great to have you back with us here on Access Tech Live.
Thank you, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be back.
And talking about Global Accessibility Awareness Day now in its 13th year, tell us about the very first Global Accessibility Awareness Day and how it compares to today's events.
Oh my gosh, that is a question no one's asked me, which is great. I'm trying to remember where the first one even was. I believe it was at Yahoo. We got Yahoo to host the event, and it was pretty interesting because Victor Tsaran was the person who sort of opened my eyes to what assistive technology is. He was a technical program manager over at Yahoo. Now he's at Google, and he was showing a screen reader. He is blind himself, so he was displaying what is it like to look at the homepage of Yahoo with a screen reader. And I've always been on the bleeding edge of technology and had never heard of a screen reader, and it just fascinated me technically. And then some years later, I wrote the blog post that turned into Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and was thrilled that he was the one that Yahoo unknowingly invited to speak. And he was really fantastic. Back then, I was kind of shocked that it sort of went viral from the first year. We had an article syndicated throughout Canada, including to my hometown of Montreal. We had 16 events. It was amazing, but now it's a whole other level. There is tech companies doing homepage takeovers. There was a Stevie Wonder concert. Jennison, my co-founder, co-keynoted with Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web. There are so many moments of this nature. Now it's just, you have to pinch yourself. It's grown beyond any expectation.
Now, you've been talking about the value of Global Accessibility Awareness Day to companies and them showing that worth back, in a sense, through the advertising that they've done. There are a lot of people today, and with GAAD being in its 13th year, saying that a lot of companies are now just doing that. They are showing their accessibility colors. They're saying they support accessibility, but they're not really doing it. They're not showing it in any meaningful way. They're just showing it. And there is a concern, I think, among a lot of disabled people that this has now just become a day for people to fly a flag, wear a pin, whatever it might be, and actually not talk about the real impact that they are making, if any at all, to disabled people.
That is a beautiful question and challenge. I can tell you there was someone that said on Twitter back in the day, he said, now that Global Accessibility Awareness Day is over, we can look forward to 364 days of global accessibility oblivion. And people told me there will be naysayers no matter what you do. Don't let that bother you. And I said, no, that bothers me. And I don't take it in a negative way. I take it as a ground truth that this person said that in pain. And the reason that he said that is that that's what he feels is happening. And for me early on, it was really important that this not become a day where people pat themselves on the back and then go about their business and do nothing. And I did give a speech at a large organization, and it was during a lunch and learn. I was a little bit more, I wasn't as polished in terms of understanding the business of public speaking and understanding that at a lunch and learn, it's natural that people are going to be looking at their food, not paying too much attention. But I got mad during the speech because I said, I did not want this to be a patting on the back. And I said, I started to raise my voice and get angry and said, this is really important. This impacts a lot of people, and the work that you do is in front of millions of people. And to my utter surprise, at the end of the talk, there was the president of the organization on the front row. And he said to me, I agree with you 100%. And I am listening to this talk personally, and I take it really personally. And it's my mission to change this culture around so that we pay attention to it. And that is the target for me about this day. I don't care especially. I mean, I appreciate because of creating this when people celebrate GAAD, but the goal is not to celebrate a day. The goal is to make a difference in accessibility.
It feels that we've had, and you all know this yourself, we've had years upon years, decades almost, of growth and enhancement in our technologies as disabled people. But when it comes to employment, the numbers remain fairly stagnant. The number of disabled people in work is still low, and there are still many negative attitudes. So while we've solved in some ways the technology problem, or we're continuing to evolve and solve the technology problem, the attitude towards disabled people seems to still be in a very early stage of evolution.
This is true, unfortunately. And those are two separate questions to me. The first one is about employment. And I think that with so many things in life, it is good to travel and take solutions from other countries, other places. And Spain has an organization. I feel funny every time I say it. It's spelled once, O-N-C-E, but pronounced ONCE. And it is the Lottery Commission. Are you familiar with it, Stephen?
I have heard of it, yes. It's very interesting because it's well, you tell the story.
Yeah, so when I went to Spain, it turned out that the Lottery Commission there goes to ONCE, and they employ people who are blind. And the reason is during the war, there were a lot of people that were maimed, and the King of Spain gave the Lottery Commission to ONCE for the purpose of employment. And I believe there's 80% employment among the blind community in Spain as a result of it. And I think that's a wonderful idea, and maybe we can do something similar over here. And that's the employment answer. The second topic, I would comment, except that I don't understand it. It doesn't really make sense to me. And perhaps you have some insight into why do you think people, like, what specifically, what type of instance does it happen in, and what is the reason?
I think from my point of view, when I think about attitudes, and it's been a thing I've talked about in my line of work for many, many years, and I can only speak from my point of view as a blind guy, right? I can't speak for any other person who is disabled, even another blind person, because everyone's experience is different and unique to them. But it is fair to say that there are a lot of people who have very negative attitudes about blindness, and I think a lot of it, and disability generally, it comes from a fear. Ultimately, it comes from fear. People who are not disabled look at disabled people and say, I don't want to be that person. I don't want that life. I don't want that condition. And, you know, we've heard of a story time and time again of parents, for example, who find out their child might be disabled and are absolutely crushed by it. And what happens is people only see the negative. They don't see any potential. And that is partly because there aren't enough people in high office, running these big tech companies, for example, running any big company, you know, out there actually doing the work. There are many, many disabled people who are out there working, but nowhere near enough. And I've often said that one of the ways that disabled people can advocate the best is in the workplace, when other people can see past the disability and see you as a person, see what you as a person is capable of. I don't know how else to fix it beyond that. People need to get into work. They need to be able to work. And despite many people's views on this, governments in particular who think that disabled people want to just sit around all day and do nothing, it's just not true. There are many disabled people who want to work, but they don't get the opportunity to. And that, I think, is where you can start to shift the attitude. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, you confirmed what I was thinking, that it was probably related to fear, but I wasn't sure. In terms of working, what I would really try and push people to consider is, you can't rely on anybody else. The world is changing constantly, and jobs that were secure in countries where there was no such thing as firing people, that's changing. And the little bit of loyalty that existed is dying in America. And so there's no security, there's no job security anymore, for the most part.
But I want to move on with this, Joe, because I want to ask you, 13 years in, you're still involved with GAAD, Global Accessibility Awareness Day. How do you keep up the spirits? How do you keep the momentum going from your own perspective?
Well, essentially, after the first year, this turned into a train, and the best way to explain it is I'm just trying to hold on to the train. The train is gone. It's going very quickly. It's a bullet train. I'm just trying to hold on, support as much as possible, and make sure that the foundation keeps to its roots, because a lot of people have their own concept for it, and they keep trying to change it and telling us how great the idea would be if it was the way their idea is. And all I can say, the same I was trying to say earlier, is do your own thing, set up your own event, but at the same time, start your own company, be an entrepreneur. That's where I was going earlier in terms of how to solve it.
Joe, congratulations again. I love talking to you. I love catching up with you, especially around this time of year. There's so much going on in the world of artificial intelligence and everything else. We could talk for hours. But for now, congratulations again on this amazing day, and come back soon to Access Tech Live.
Thank you, Stephen. That sounds great. Enjoy being here. Thank you for the invite, and we'll see you again soon.
That was Joe Devon,
it's great to have you back with us here on Access.
And the co-founder of Global Accessibility Awareness Day. If you're looking for GAAD events around you, around the world, head on over to accessibility.day. Coming up, what fitness gadget or app can you not live without? Your answers after a quick break here on Access Tech Live.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back.